Dawie Roodt, Chief Economist of the Efficient Group. Good to have you in my sights. We've got a number of issues on the table. And the first one we need to start with is, of course, that our only hope of not getting a VAT increase come the 1st of May lies with the Democratic Alliance, who is currently at the Western Cape High Court with an urgent interdict to prevent the VAT hike. How is this going to pan out?
Hello, Bronwyn. I've got a suspicion they're not going to be successful, and I've got a suspicion that the VAT is going to become effective on the 1st of May. And I think the Minister of Finance is going to win this round. So I think we're going to pay more on VAT. But this is an excellent example of just politicians playing games, politicians wanting to see who's going to blink first. Because if you look what happened to the revenue of the state last year, remember, and nobody's talking about this, but about 2-3 weeks ago, SARS announced that they collected close to 10 billion rand more than what they were aiming for in the previous financial year. And half a percentage point increase in VAT will give you roughly about 10 billion rand. So they've got the money. So we don't actually need to increase VAT because there's an overrun on the revenue in the previous financial year, and they're only going to, so why? And this is just an example. This is a lose-lose for the ANC, just by the way, because if they are successful, there will be a VAT increase. Everybody's going to be angry at them. If they're not successful, it means they're going to lose out to the DA. So this is a lose-lose for the ANC. So I think it's really stupid to keep on pushing for this VAT increase. That's in fact not the issue here. The issue is not about revenue. Well, the issue is about revenue, but that's a lack of economic growth. The issue actually has to do more with state expenditure. They're simply spending too much money.
To what extent, as you say, it's a lose-lose for the ANC when it comes to the voters, to what extent will the MK encroach on ANC territory? We have seen them winning their first ward, the MK, in the recent round of municipal elections.
Yeah, interesting. I actually thought that this would have been that we are beginning of the end of the EFF because the political parties, very populist political parties with a very strong charismatic leader like Julius Malema, usually, the EFF, but the same applies to the MK as well, is that there's a center figure in the form of Jacob Zuma, for example. Usually these political parties don't last for very much longer. But I spoke to Frans Cronje, and interesting for me is that both the MK and the EFF actually gained the votes. If there's an election tomorrow, while the ANC lost support, and the DA, of course, also gained a lot of new support. But I'm actually quite surprised to see how the MK and the EFF, they were actually their support actually increased. Whether this is going to last. I still think those two political parties will come to an end because they are centered or built around two persona, basically. And that's not the way to build a political party. But I guess some people are very unhappy with the ANC at the moment. They're just not prepared to vote for the DA, and they move their support to those two political parties, the MK and EFF. But this can potentially be quite dangerous for South Africa going forward.
And Dawie, what does this mean for the GNU? Going back now to the VAT issue, it's been a stumbling block. How is the DA going to proceed if they cannot stop the VAT hike? As you say, you believe that VAT will go ahead on the 1st of May. For the Government
I
of
think
National Unity?
Yeah, if I was a DA, I would leave the Government of National Unity, but not yet. I think the GNU will survive. It's not a GNU, by the way. It's a coalition. Let's be honest about it. So I think this coalition will survive until maybe a year or so before the next general election. And if I was a DA, I will leave the Government of National Unity then. And the reason why I say so is because the DA were pretty much in the first couple of months during the GNU, the DA were, or at least that was the impression that was created, that the ANC swallowed the DA in a way. The DA became part of the ANC. And when this opportunity presented itself with VAT, The DA played this absolutely brilliantly. And they use this now to really to make the point that they are actually a very important political party wanting to put South Africa first and all that. And that's part of the reason of this for this huge gain in popularity for a DA. So where we are at the moment, I think the DA is waiting for the ANC to kick them out, and the ANC is waiting for the DA to leave. That's more or less where we are. I've got a suspicion they're going to somehow make it work, and we will see the GNU limping forward. But without a doubt, it's very clear that the ANC simply does not want to accept the reality that they do not have 50% anymore. They trying to create the impression that the other political parties, especially the DA, is at fault here and it's all their fault. But actually, it's the ANC wanting not to lose political points. And in the process, actually, what happened is that they were the biggest losers.
With the VAT hike potentially going ahead, does that not weaken the DA's position, given that they have really fought hard down to the wire in terms of preventing the VAT increase? Does it not show that they don't have power?
No, I don't think so. I think because they lost out, because everybody knows that the ANC is the dominant political party, and they lost out to a court decision. I mean, you can't, if the court decides against you, you made your point, and the point is that what you made is that you are against an increase in taxes. That's basically the point they made. Just incidentally, I am actually also in favor of an increase in VAT. But, and this is a very important very important but, I would increase VAT, and I would increase VAT easily by 2% or even more, on the condition that we lower more damaging taxes. And other taxes are far more damaging. Personal income taxes are far more damaging. Company taxes are far more damaging, and a lot of other taxes, capital gains taxes, withholding taxes, all of those are much more damaging to the economy than an increase in value added tax. But the Minister of Finance, that's the only tax. If you want more money, that is the only tax that you can increase that will give you substantially more money.
So, Dawie, I need to push you on that point because I don't think it's going to be very popular in terms of the fact that you are in favor of a VAT increase, but you have carefully balanced that with the fact that you would like to see a reduction in more harmful taxes. I think it's important for you just to state your case again there so that we have it very clear for our audience.
Let me just make a few things very clear. Companies do not pay tax whatsoever, because companies will always shift their complete and total tax burden down to individuals. And in the end, individuals pay all taxes in any event. But if you talk about company taxes, I'm using this as one example. There are in South Africa, do you know, 1,000 companies that pay more than 70% of all company taxes. Our company tax is 27%, is far higher than most other countries in the world. We have to get company taxes lower to make South Africa more attractive as an investment destination, get more economic growth, more people employed, and then all those people that are employed can pay more VAT, for example, or more personal income taxes, as an example. So the mixture that we have of the various taxes are very, very harmful to economic growth. In the case of personal income taxes, a few individuals pay just about all the personal income taxes in the country. Something like 500,000 individuals pay at something like 50% of total personal income taxes. It is completely unsustainable. We are losing our rich people. They are emigrating, or they very aggressively are structuring their tax affairs because taxes are so high. I'm an asset manager, Bronwyn. People come into my office. They tell me two things when they walk into my office. They say, I want to take my money out of the country and I do not want to pay tax. We are losing our rich people. We are already over the so-called Laffer curve, where if you increase personal income taxes, you're going to get less in. And by the way, we are getting very close to the Laffer curve on value-added tax as well. So that's the reason why I say so. VAT is a very efficient tax, is a very broad-based tax, it's very difficult to evade VAT. And in fact, all these zero-based items, I will also get rid of that. If you want to address poverty, for instance, it is much better to do that on the expenditure side of the budget. Increase the grants, for example, and scrap all these zero-rated stuff, as an example. In fact, rich people spend more money on these basic stuff that are exempt of VAT than poor people, because rich people also eat bread and other stuff that are VAT exempt. So that the total tax regime in South Africa needs to be redone. Actually, it needs to be simplified, and it needs to some taxes, various taxes, need to be adjusted and changed, like what I've mentioned just now.
I also want to take this opportunity to talk about the country's economic growth and what is happening on that front while we spend most of our time debating the VAT element leading up to the 1st of May. But talk to me about the underlying growth and health of the South African economy.
Well, the Minister of Finance in his budget, he's on off budget. He reckoned the economy is going to grow at, say, 1.8%. That was his expectations, is just below 2% for the next 3 years. My expectations at the beginning of the year was about 1.5% for the year. And just by the way, 1.5% is also more or less in line with population growth. So zero per capita GDP growth. That's what I expected. And this is nothing new because today we are poorer than 15 years ago because of weak economic growth for a long time. So I had about 1.5% economic growth, but then a couple of new headwinds appeared. Things like, for example, Trump, things like AGOA, getting kicked off AGOA. Now, if you kick off AGOA, you can shave off 0.2%. If there are some other tariffs, another point, by the way, whatever, pick a number. Maybe some financial sanctions, who knows? I don't know what's going to come from the US, but all of that will reduce economic growth. Now we have this issue with the GNU, maybe the GNU coming to an end. We've got issues with the budget, on and off budget, uncertainty about that. And now again, you can shave off a couple of percentage point, whatever, off of economic growth. So my estimate at the moment, but there's so much uncertainty, is around about 1%. And a new kind of crisis is going to dip that to well below 1%. So last year we grew at 0.6. So we're probably looking at the best case scenario of around about 1% for this year, which is very, very bad because the Minister of Finance depends on economic growth. He depends on a strong economy to fund this massive state machinery. And that brings me back to the important point. We need to do two things. We have to improve the efficiency of the state, and we have to put policies in place to get this economy to grow. And if you don't grow the economy, if you don't change policies, we will keep on growing at sub 1%. And that's just not sustainable. We are getting poorer, and rich people are leaving the country because there are no opportunities, or far fewer opportunities. So I'm afraid economic growth, I can't see getting to 1.5%. I think 1% is even stretched a little bit.
And of course, with no economic growth, there's no jobs growth, of which we are in dire need.
Indeed, indeed. With that, and that is another issue that I have with policy of government. They've got this policy of job creation. They want to create jobs. That is wrong. Getting people to wave little flags next to the road, that's not job creation. That's keeping people busy. What we need to do again, put measures in place. Forget about job creation. Grow the economy, and jobs will look after themselves.
Dawie, just coming back to the Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana, with the ANC set to lose support, especially with the VAT increase coming in the 1st of May, do you think Enoch Godongwana is actually working himself very quickly out of a job?
It looks like it. I must tell you, I don't think he's the best Minister of Finance there is out there. And he's got a bit of a history as well. But he's probably the best that the ANC can offer at this stage. But it seems to me his loss, this was a bit of a blunder. This cost the ANC big time, and I think there will be pressure. There will be pressure going forward to replacing him by somebody else. I can think of a few guys. Benzi Jonas, for example, would be a brilliant choice. He's a good guy, and I also don't think he's going to go to Donald Trump to be our special envoy. I think that was a bit of a blunder as well on the side of the president. But that's a good example of somebody that will be able to do a good job as well.
So you would put into the Minister of Finance ring Mcebisi Jonas, correct? Just to
Well,
clarify.
I will actually put myself in there as the Minister of Finance so I can overhaul the tax system.
Dawie, thanks so much. I appreciate you catching up with us to give us this update. And of course, we'll speak to you again as things unfold. This is, of course, perhaps a once in a lifetime movie in the business world that we are navigating right now.
Indeed, there's so much uncertainty, but it's a lot of fun being an economist, I can tell you that. Thank you, Bronwyn.
Thank you so much, Dawie Roodt, Chief Economist of the Efficient Group.